5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
As the ship approaches, it's dark in the morning. You'll see a lot of lights in the distance and flashing lights and beacons and landmarks that are lit up.
Good morning, Coral Princess. Welcome to day one of the Panama Canal transit. Our day begins at 5:10 a.m. I'm here on the M1, which is the main highway for the crew. Behind me, we're just preparing to get the pilots on board and to get ourselves off, and we'll see you guys on the locks.
Our journey will begin early in the morning. Passengers will wake up and you'll be in the middle of the anchorage outside of the breakwater, and you'll see many ships that are waiting in line to go through the canal. We pay a premium, so we are guaranteed a slot early in the morning, a daytime transit. We'll go through the breakwater, we'll pick up a pilot, and the pilot will assist us up to the locks.
The photographers and videographers go out early when the pilot comes in about 5:30 before the daylight. They go out to make sure to are in position someplace.
You've got to do a lot of preparation. One of them is to pick up the main pilot, and of course the 25 to 30 marinos. And marinos are the gentlemen that actually go to the aft and forward mooring stations to heave up on the wires that are given to us by the mules.
Taking a Panama Canal transit is probably one of the best ways to experience the locks, because you are part of the system. You can feel the ship rise, you can feel it descend in the locks. The sounds and smells and sights of going through the lock system itself are hard to imagine until you've actually seen them.
And then finally, the ship reaches the first set of locks.
Good morning, Coral Princess. We are here at Miraflores Locks. It is 7:30 a.m. We are waiting for you guys and we're ready to shoot.
The idea that they were able to have a canal in the middle of the Lords, the continental America, it was, for the humanity, it was a perfect idea to move faster to the other side.
When we enter the canal from either the Atlantic side or the Pacific side, we go through a series of locks that raise the level of the ship in usually nominally three equal steps to the level of Gatun Lake, which is a man-made lake. When it was filled in 1913, it was the largest man-made lake in the world.
So what the canal is, it's really a lake bridge connecting the Atlantic and Pacific, and we travel across the isthmus 85 feet above sea level.
We'll see a little rowboat come out with two men, and the line will be thrown down from the ship, and as we get up near the lock walls, that line will be tied to two locomotive cables, which will be winched onto the vessel.
And that's of course to keep you nice and safe right in the center of the actual lock.
The big miter gate doors open up and the ship comes right in, and it sits there for about 15 minutes as the gates close behind us. It fills with water and we're lifted up 28 feet. process by which we move through the locks is ingenious.
We're going to pick up 8 locomotives. They weigh about 55 tons each. Each of them has 2 cables, and they basically help us move in and out of the locks.
These electric locomotives are called mules. The first ones were built by General Electric back in the early 1900s, so the mules that we've seen are third-generational mules. They used to cost about $1 million, now they're up to $2 million per mule, and the Panama Canal Authority has about 55 of these mules.
You will hear a series of bells. There is a loadmaster. He's one of the pilots on board our ship, and he will tell the mule drivers what to do.
Well, the pilots, they're an advisor to us. Of course, given the fact that we go through the Panama Canal quite a few times, we still need an advisor to help us out with communication with the mules and, of course, with the local authorities.
And he does it by radio. The mule driver doesn't have any way to talk back. The only way he responds back is by ringing a gong or a bell, and you'll see that bell on the side of the locomotive.
And that means that the pilot is giving the locomotive operator a command, and he's responding in the only way that he can, is ringing the bell.
Now they're the ones that actually coordinate with the mules how much tension that they should be putting in the wires. They're a very, very important part of the navigation team, and we actually include them into our bridge resource management, which of course is to ensure that we navigate safely through the canal.
So the locomotives, or the mules as we call them, as they use in all canals, they don't actually pull the ship, they just make sure that the ship stays in the center lane.
Good morning, Coral Princess. We're here in Louisa Hills overlooking Pedro Miguel Locks, just waiting for you all to arrive.
Suez Canal was all in sand, so it was very easy digging. This one, my gosh, I don't understand how, with the type of equipment they have there in the beginning of the last century, how they were able to do that.
Constructing the locks themselves and the whole concept behind that was also unique and made it problematic.
The lock system of lifting the ships up 85 feet to the level of Gatun Lake saved an awful lot of digging. They estimated that back in the day of the construction, it would have taken another 10 years of digging to create a sea level canal.
The conditions of the sea on the Pacific side are very different from the Caribbean side.
Because of the difference in tide between the Pacific side, which is 20 feet, and only a maximum tide of 1 foot on the Atlantic side, you would still require a tidal lock at either the Pacific or the Atlantic side, most likely at the Pacific side.
So if you have extreme low tide on the Pacific side and just little low tide on the Atlantic side, there's a current that would flow on a sea level canal that would make it almost impossible to navigate ships through the canal.
The sea levels are the same, both the Atlantic and the Pacific. But everybody said why they have kind of tall gates here, because of the tide fluctuation, extreme tide fluctuations, and the weather conditions on the Pacific side.
When you think about the locks, you think of just a long chamber filled with water, but if you put them on end, these structures are among the tallest in the world, and they would surpass the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building in Manhattan. The reason the lake is so important, if you think of your car and a tank of gasoline, the fuel that runs the canal locks is Gatun Lake. And it's fueled by 200 inches of rain annually, and all of that rain is what makes the canal possible today.
The water is taken from Gatun Lake through inlets and brought into the locks.
Gatun Lake was made by the damming of the Chagres River, the unpredictable, intolerable Chagres River. They had to dam that river to make it all work.
The upper lock will equalize with the level of Gatun Lake. Once it's equal, the gates open and we enter that. Then they drain the lock down into the next lock. There are three major water carrying conduits in the current lock system. One on each side, the side walls of the outside of the lock, and one in the center wall. So it all runs with gravity, no pumps.
It's a waterway. It was created with an artificial lake 85 feet above sea level. And you have hydraulic stairs on the Atlantic and the Pacific side, which lift a ship up 85 feet in 3 steps on the Atlantic side at Gatun Locks. You cross the lake, and then you go down to the sea level on the Pacific side through 2 more sets of locks. One at Pedro McGill, where you drop 31 feet, and one at Miraflores, where you drop 55 feet in 2 steps.
Gatun Lake covers 163 square miles. It's serene, it's beautiful, and many people think they're going to see wildlife going through Gatun Lake, but that's not true. When the lake was made, the wildlife scattered to higher ground, and most of it today is in what they call Barrow, Colorado. It's an island, the largest one in Gatun Lake, operated by the Smithsonian Institute. It took the Americans 10 years to build the canal. The French tried for 20 years, so I guess you could say it was a 30-year project altogether. It opened August 15th, 1914, and the very first ship to go through was not a passenger ship. They wanted to have it, but what they had was kind of a tanker freighter. It was called the Ancon.
The assets for the canal, as we know it today, were purchased from the French by the Americans in 1904. For the U.S. to become a true world power, it had to have 2 navies, and to support 2 navies, it needed the canal at the time. Today, we have a 2-ocean navy, and the canal is less strategically important. We owe the success of that basically to Theodore Roosevelt, who spearheaded the idea of a canal being in Panama.
The alternative for going through the Panama Canal means leaving New York City, for example, going around Cape Horn, the tip of South America, coming all the way up the Pacific side to, let's say, San Francisco. That journey would be 7,800 miles and would take 3 weeks. So yes, ships are paying a heavy toll to go through the canal, but if you look at labor, fuel, and the cost of running a ship for 3 additional weeks, it's a pretty good deal.
The major traffic through the canal is container traffic right now, and it is what is driving, one of the reasons it's driving the new expansion project.
Hello, my name is Juan Manuel. I'm a local guide here in the Canal Expansion Observation Center. Since the 1990s, we noticed this increasing cargo volume transiting through the Panama Canal. Bigger vessels than the capacity of the existing locks started to be built. So as a result, we started the studies in order to find a way to give a better service to all of our clients as we have done up to nowadays.
It's not a new canal they're building. It's a new lane of traffic that utilizes 2 new sets of locks.
The new locks are much larger. The new locks are going to be solely used for larger ships. The Coral Princess will continue to use the original canal. They plan on putting 12 ships a day through.
Different from the existing locks where we have miter gates, we will have sliding gates. So these sliding gates will take about 5 minutes in order to open or close.
They're not going to have towing locomotives. They're going to take them through with a tugboat on the bow and a tugboat on the stern. There's 3 lifts, so they're using the same lake, they're using the same cut.
Now, where is the water from the new locks going to come from? It's going to come from the 200 inches of rain that comes into Panama every year. So Gatun Lake still fuels the new set of locks.
The new locks have water-saving basins incorporated. By that, the water is moved laterally out of the lock into a basin, 3 of them, by gravity, and then the last 40% of the water is used to equalize with the lock below or is expelled into the ocean.
What makes the new set of locks so unique is they're going to be wider and longer. That means they can accommodate the post-Panamax size ships. The current set of locks, 110 feet wide. The new set of locks will be 160 feet wide, so that gives you an idea of perspective.
Good afternoon, Coral Princess, and welcome to day 2 of our Panama Canal transit. The time is currently 2:08 p.m. and we are just about to enter Pedro Miguel locks and begin our journey back out into the Pacific Ocean.